Hello, physics students. My name is Mr. Williams. So today we're going to be practicing our kinetic energy equation exercises. It's like we need some additional practice. Please excuse the traffic in the background. Uh, I'm in a parking lot right now, and yeah, there's traffic in the back. So let's go ahead and get started. Directions, those are pretty important. Let's read those. Determine the kinetic energy, mass, and speed of each scenario. Show units, equations, and calculations. Remember, kinetic energy equals 1/2 times m times v squared. Number one, write the kinetic energy equation in the box below. Identify what each variable represents. Okay, so I'm just going to write kinetic energy equals 1/2 times m times v squared. Hold on a second. I'm going to try to change my screen. All right. Okay, so kinetic energy represents the object's, well, or KE represents the object's kinetic energy. M represents the object's mass. V represents the object's speed. Number two, a jogger whose mass is 60 kilograms is moving at a speed of 4 meters per second. What is the jogger's kinetic energy? All right, so kinetic energy, we don't know. So we're going to put a question mark for the things we have to calculate or solve. They're the unknown. They're the variable we have to determine. Okay, for mass, well, what's the mass? It tells us right here. Just read the problem. Mass is 60 kilograms. Okay, V equals speed. So our speed right here, they tell us speed is 4 meters per second. When I do these problems, I like to rewrite the equation. Just helps me out. I recommend you do the same thing. In fact, I'm telling you to do the same thing. Next, you're going to rewrite the equation again, except instead of putting in the variables, you're going to put the numbers that they represent. Well, the unknown, we continue to write the unknown. Our unknown is the kinetic energy. Kinetic energy equals 1/2 times, well, our mass is 60 times our V is 4 meters per second, and it has to be squared. Don't forget to square it. And next, we are going to just chug away in the calculator, and we're going to see what we got. So kinetic energy equals 1/2 times 60. Well, that would be 30. Times our 4 squared. 4 squared, same thing as saying 4 times 4. Since 4 times 4 is 16, 30 times 16. All right. So we'll just put that into the calculator. 30 times 16. And we have, I think I messed up. Let me try it again. 30 times 16. And I have 480 joules. Okay. Don't forget your units. Units are important. So when you're asked to find the kinetic energy, that's how you're going to do this problem. It's just going to be simple. Plug the numbers into the equation, put them into the calculator, and then hit enter, and we got our answer. Okay, next. This one, we are going to be calculating something different. Okay, this is going to be the most challenging version of this problem. So once you get this under wraps, you are set. So an object has the kinetic energy of 25 joules and a mass of 10 kilograms. How fast is the object moving? Well, they told us that the kinetic energy is 25 joules, so KE equals 25 joules. All right, and it says it has a mass of 10 kilograms. 10 kilograms. These problems tell you what to put in for these things, okay? You just got to read. It says, how fast is the object moving? Well, fast, you should recognize that they're talking about speed here. And so our V is going to equal question mark. We don't know what it is. So you are going to rewrite the equation. Kinetic energy equals 1/2 times m times v squared. And then go ahead and we're going to rewrite it again, except this time we're going to put in the numbers. So kinetic energy is 25 equals 1/2 times, well, our mass is 10. And then that would be times our v squared. Now, let's simplify this out, and we can just rewrite it again by saying 1/2 times 10, and that'll give us 5. So I'm just going to rewrite 25 equals 5 times v squared. And so I'm going to continue my work over here, put an arrow, show you doing that. All right, since 5 times v squared, there's a multiplication going on, we have to get rid of that 5 because we want our v by itself. So since it's 5 times v squared, we have to do the opposite to both sides to get rid of that 5. So what we're going to do, and I'm just going to rewrite the same thing here and show you the steps that I'm doing. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And then I'm going to rewrite the result underneath, 25 divided by 5. Well, everybody knows that's 5. All right. And then 5 divided by 5, that cancels out, so it turns into 1. So 1 times v squared, well, that's the same thing as saying v squared. Okay. Now, here's something that you need to know. All right. Some people are nervous because they don't know what to do with a v squared. How do you get rid of a square? Well, you get rid of a square by taking a square root. Okay. And I'm going to just give you a little lesson over here in this square right here. Okay. So if you had 2 squared, that's the same thing as saying 2 times 2, and that equals 4, right? Okay. So how would we undo having squared that 4? Well, you could take the square root of 4, would be the same thing saying what times itself equals 4. Well, that would be the same thing as saying 2. 2 times 2 equals 4. So the square root of 4 is 2. So you can say, how would you undo 2 squared? You take the square root of it. So back on to our problem down here. So we're going to take the square root of this v squared, and we're going to take the square root of this 5. Okay, and we're going to do that right here. Okay, and so we'll have square root of 5 equals v. Now, the square root of 5 is not a pretty number, okay? It doesn't have a perfect square, so to speak. We'll take 5, we'll hit the square root button, and we get this hideous number right here, okay? So 2.236, I'm going to round that up to be 2.2. And so we're going to say 2.2 meters per second equals our V. All right, that is our final answer. Okay, that's the most challenging one. But the trick is you just have to undo your square, and you do that by taking a square root. So let's do number 4. A diver had the kinetic energy of 12,000 joules before hitting the water. If the diver's mass is 40 kilograms, what was his speed? Okay, so we're just going to start plugging in these numbers. Our kinetic energy is 12,000 joules. Okay, and it says the diver's mass is 40 kilograms. And the speed we have to calculate. So question mark again, okay? Just like the previous problem. So we're going to do kinetic energy equals 1/2 times m times v squared. And so I'm going to put the numbers into this equation and then simplify by multiplying out. 12,000 equals 1/2 times 40 times v squared, and we're going to simplify that down and say, just change the color, 12,000 equals 1/2 times 40 would be 20. That's times our v squared. Okay. And now, since it's 20 times v squared, we get rid of the 20 by doing the opposite. Instead of 20 times v squared, we do the opposite, which would be divide both sides by 20. Okay. And so on this side, we'll have 12,000 divided by 20. And on this side, it would be 20 times v squared divided by 20. Well, that's going to cancel out. Okay. And I think that's going to be 600 equals v squared. Let's double check. Okay. We got calculators. Let's do it. 12,000 divided by 20. All right, yeah, 600. Awesome. And so 600 equals v squared. We don't know what v squared is. We want to know v. So what do we have to do to both sides? Just like in the previous problem, we have to take the square root. Okay? And so put it in our calculator. Square root of 600. We got 600 there. Hit square root button. 24.49. All right, another ugly number. So I'm going to round that up to 24.5. All right. And so we'll say that 24.5 meters per second equals our V. Let's put a box around it so it looks like a final answer. Okay. Please box your final answers. It helps me to calculate or to determine where your answer is, okay? All right, so number 5. Looks like I have a typo here. Let's scratch that typo out there. All right, so a roller coaster car with a kinetic energy of 25,000 joules has a speed of 10 meters per second. What is the mass of the roller coaster? So, since it's asking what is the mass of the roller coaster, let's go ahead and put question mark for the mass. They tell us that the kinetic energy is 25,000 joules. Okay, our speed, well, they tell us it's 10 meters per second. So I'm going to rewrite the kinetic energy equation. Ke equals 1/2 mv squared. All right. So our kinetic energy, we're just going to plug that number into our Ke. So we have 25,000 equals 1/2 times the mass. We don't know that yet. Times 10. We'll go ahead and simplify the right side of the equation. We'll have 1/2 times 10. Okay. And so 1/2 times 10 will give us 5, and that's 5 times m. This side we will have our 25,000. Okay, and we're going to rewrite that over here. Before we do that, let's do this. Let's go ahead. Since 5 times m, we got to get rid of the m5. We want m by itself, so we'll do the opposite. Well, the opposite of 5 times n is divide both sides by 5. So we're just going to accidentally erase that. We're going to divide both sides by 5. Okay, so that will cancel out. And then we'll have over here, rewriting that. Pretty sure that's like 5,000. So 25,000 divided by 5 equals 5,000. Uh-oh, I made a mistake. Do you know what my mistake was? I forgot to do something. Okay, I did not square my 10. Oh, man. Bad, Mr. Williams. Very important that you pay attention to what you're doing, right? Okay, so what I had forgot to do, and I'm going to do it in blue, all right, when I plug into my equation, I have to put my square, okay? So I forgot to put square in the equation because my square would have been here, and it needed to go right there. So let's redo this all, okay? So because of our order of operations, instead of um, multiplying first, we have to do our exponents first, right? Because the order of operations, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division from left to right, addition, subtraction from left to right. So we got to do that. So under here, we're going to have 10 squared would be 100. See, we all make mistakes. It's important to identify your mistakes. Now that I have correctly included my 10 squared over here, we're going to have, and we're going to multiply the right side 1/2 times 100. So 1/2 times 100 is 50. So we'll have 50 times m. I had a feeling something was fishy here. So now, what do we got to do to both sides? We're going to divide both sides by 50. Okay. And so after we do that, instead of 5,000, that should be 500 equals RM. Okay, let's double check. All right. We don't want to be too confident and make mistakes when we did all the work correctly this time. All right, and so 5,000 divided by 50 gives us 500. Okay, so we're going to put a box around that. Okay, so now I forgot to put my units, so let's erase that and put the units. All right, so since we're talking about mass, we're talking about kilograms. Kilograms. Mass equals 500 kilograms. So that's how you do each of the 3 ways that you're going to encounter how to solve this kinetic energy equation. All right, and we did the most challenging one twice. So you got this, guys. Don't be scared, just practice. Don't be scared, be prepared, and you be prepared by practicing. So you're going to be doing 5 problems on your own. So 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, so here it says, what is the kinetic energy? So we're going to be solving the kinetic energy for number 6. What is the kinetic energy? So we're going to be solving the kinetic energy here. This next one says, what is the girl's kinetic energy over here? So we'll be solving for kinetic energy. Number 9, we're going to be solving for mass. Okay, and number 10, we're going to be solving for speed. All right, so that number 10, that's the one where you're going to do the square root thing. Okay, you got this, guys. Just keep practicing, okay? Keep practicing. Your education is in your hands, and the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. Have a good day, guys.